Rodrigo strikes the ball and scores! And Ellen Road goes crazy! And it's gone straight in! Shot from a long way!
So a last gasp equaliser from Rodrigo and a smashed corner flag gave Leeds a point against Wolves. Now it's a big trip down south to Norwich. This is the warm-up. Coming up for you this week.
Enjoy it for a moment, because that's as a player you've got to improve every time you get out there.
Pascal Goldfinger Struijk.
Gelhardt, oh my word!
So welcome to the warm-up this week with myself, Rich Williams, and of course, Leeds United legend, Dom Matteo, with me as well. We have checked the corner flag that Rodrigo smashed. It's not in a great way. I think they've replaced it with a new one, Dom. But let's just have a think about that Wolves game at the end of last week, because that was a moment, wasn't it? Rodrigo kind of showed how everyone was feeling in that moment and how we felt when that goal went in.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we've seen that passion, and it's good to see that from certain players. You know, with Rodrigo, he's usually quite calm and collected, but I thought for me that was just that pure passion and a goal that we so desperately needed. And we were at good points in that game where there was chances, we were creating stuff, and it was like we'd found a bit of creativity again, which we've been missing massively. So yeah, it was a brilliant moment, and like you say, the atmosphere and the noise that generated was incredible, and you've got to give the fans a massive shout on that, because they were brilliant and they played a massive part in that result.
Yeah, they did. It was an incredible atmosphere. I'm just thinking, when it is an atmosphere like that and it builds towards the end of the game, it's almost the last kick of the match. It wasn't quite, but nearly. The pressure for Rodrigo. I mean, Tyler Roberts wanted to take that as well, but for both of them to step up and then for Rodrigo to actually put it away in that moment, how is that as a player in a pressure moment like that?
I think when you look through the squad as well, he'd probably be the one I'd have chosen to take that. I know he's not been in massive vein of goal scoring form, but overall he's quite calm and collected the way he kind of plays his game. He knows what he's doing. So I think for me it was the right choice, and obviously when you score, it's always the right choice, isn't it? But I thought it was very calm to do that. I've never been in that position because I've never getting a chance to take a penalty.
No one trusted you to take a last-minute
penalty,
Dom.
because I'd have just drilled it straight down the middle, boom. But no, it wasn't, and I think that's all credit to him as well, because he has had his critics for not taking his chances at times. But there sometimes, when you get a goal like that, it can sometimes push you forward into your form in the Premier League, which is the most important thing for the club at the moment.
Leeds were pushing in that game, of course, but it was really the introduction of Joe Gelhardt that turned everything on its head. Just someone coming on, a young player with no fear, no worry, in that kind of cauldron as well. Mazy runs, and of course that led to the penalty, and he had other opportunities as well, did Joe?
He did. Joe was excellent. Messi-like, I've heard a few comments online and stuff, and from certain pundits, and you know what? Give him a bit of credit, but obviously straight back
Gelhardt, oh my word!
Enjoy it for a moment, because that's as a player you've got to improve every time you get out there. But I think we've seen that with Joe now. We can see what he can do and what he possibly could do, not just from the bench, starting as well at some point. That's what you've got to be working on as a young player. You'd be thinking to yourself, right, my next job is to get into that first team and become a regular. And I think he's shown glimpses of what he can do. Improvement to definitely be done going forward for him. But overall, I think he was a breath of fresh air. I loved it when he came on, because he had them little tricks. They were Messi-like, to be honest. I certainly couldn't do them skills. I'd have definitely done me near something. But it was great to see somebody trying that as well, because that takes bottle as well. And I think, speaking to lads who knew him from when he was at Wigan, when he played there, they knew he had the ability, he knew he had skills, and now in the Premier League, showing what he can do as well. So amazing, and I'm so pleased for him as well, and again for the club as well, bringing another player through into the first team squad.
You mentioned the crowd. If you were there, you'll know just what it was like from about the 65th minute onwards. Wacko started, and everyone just thought, you know what? This is the time to get behind the team more than we've ever got behind the team. It was so loud in Ellen Road. Yeah. It's cliched about the 12th man, isn't it? But if ever there was a time, Wolves players must have been like, what the heck's going on here? Yeah. And it pushed the team forward.
Yeah, and it was a nice touch from Conor Cody as well. he went straight to Joe, didn't he, and said, "Well done." You know, I think that's a little bit of class of Wolves, and someone like Conor Cody, who's playing at the highest level. Yeah, but and they are hard to play against, but we dealt with them well. And like you say, the atmosphere that created, even before the goal came, to be honest, it was coming. They were pushing, and for once, it was like watching the Leeds that we've watched regular over the last year or so. They were proper at it. They were on it. First half, it wasn't the best performance, but second half, it was really, really encouraging from that performance. And I think everyone put a shift in to get that result. And that's the key thing about it, is even adding them players at the right time. It felt like everything came together. And yeah, it was a brilliant performance. And like you say, the fans, again, we have to thank them as well, because without them, would we have got that goal? I don't know. Maybe would have, but the fans were a massive part of that.
Yeah, definitely. You'll hear from Marcelo Bielsa on the warm-up this week. Before we get to that, and before we look at Norwich as well, another game in midweek. It was the cup game. You were down there.
I was, yeah.
At Arsenal. What did you make of it? Because it was a promising first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a bit of a game of two halves. We had a couple of chances. I think Dan James got in. Could he have done a bit better? I think when you look at it again, it's a bit. We're getting into the right areas, but we're just making that wrong decision at a vital moment in time. And I think the performance was decent. No two ways about that. But I think there was little improvements again. Obviously, we've seen him make a couple of changes at the back. Maybe that upset Coops a little bit. Sometimes when you come on, I know as a defender with half an hour to go or something, it's sometimes difficult to adjust. But obviously, Marcelo's got a plan for the way he does stuff. So there was some good moments to take out of it. Obviously, wasn't nice. And Nketiah getting his goal, former Leeds.
He tried his hardest not to, though, didn't he?
He did. And I think, we were sat next to Ian Wright, which was great to see, Wrighty. And obviously going to Arsenal for some of them younger players as well, was another experience that they need to kind of learn from. That's how I look at it. You go to these big stadiums, big grounds. What can you take out of that? Obviously they got beat, but you've got to somehow take something out of it. Joe Gelhardt, the lad we've been focusing on, he didn't really get his opportunities to showcase what he has been doing. But sometimes when you're playing against better opposition, it's harder. So you've got to try and find a way. And I think that's what all them young players kind of did. They all did well. Cody came on and did well as well. Cody Drama, he's got a lot to be proud of as well with his performance. It's always a difficult game at Arsenal. I've had many a drubbing there, so there's no shame in it. But overall, I thought it was a decent performance. Disappointing for the fans who travelled again. It's a long way. And obviously, I was on that coach. So, yeah, there was a few people disappointed. But I think they're realistic as well. They do know that the league is very important. Yes, we'd love a cup run. Everyone would. But the league game's so important for us now. Yeah,
well, it is back to Premier League action. A full set of fixtures heading your way this weekend. Dom, let's take a look at your predictions for this week's Premier League ones. There is one that stands out a little bit, a manager under a lot of pressure, going to Tottenham Hotspur. Man United travelling there as well after their 5-0 hammering, I think it's fair to say, last weekend, which made everyone's weekend feel a bit better, didn't it? What do you see in this game, if you were to pick one out? Tottenham against Man United, which way is that going to go?
Oof, that is a really tough call, because you think the situation Man United are in, they are desperate for a win. Tottenham themselves, I wouldn't say they've been playing brilliantly this year, but it's kind of a game in the balance for me. It could go either way. Hopefully, in my point of view, obviously I'd rather Tottenham win. So I generally think Tottenham might just edge this. I just think they've got enough, and obviously the confidence will be low, but again, they'll want to bounce back.
Give us a score.
But I'm going to go Tottenham. I'm going to go Tottenham 3-1.
I love the way you say you might edge it, and then you went for what will essentially be a really bad
result.
Man
United, I'm sorry, but that's just my...
I agree with you. It's all good. Yeah.
Bueno, los equipos que sufren derrotas abultadas,
the teams when they lose so heavily,
multiplican multiplican la energía para evitar que se repita una mala actuación en el partido posterior.
They multiply the efforts so that a similar defeat doesn't happen in their next game.
Pero todas estas evaluaciones,
all of these evaluations,
no son necesarias, porque cada partido es difícil en sí mismo.
But these evaluations are not necessary because every game in itself is difficult
por todo lo que hay en juego
due to everything that's in play
y porque nuestra propia realidad nos obliga más que nunca.
and because our own reality obliges us more than ever,
Con independencia de cómo se sienta el rival.
independent of how the opponent feels.
Cualquier partido, cualquier rival merecería un análisis similar a este, porque se trata de la Premier League y de nuestra situación particular.
Any other team will require the same analysis because it's the Premier League and because of our reality at the moment.
So Norwich are the opponents then. They are rock bottom, 9 games, 2 points. They've only scored a couple of goals. They've shipped in loads. The Chelsea result last weekend, 7-0. On paper, Dom, this is a game we have to go and win.
You're right, let's be honest. We're not in a brilliant position ourselves, but they're in a worse position. And we've got to try and capitalise on that. There is no two ways about that. But it won't be easy because this will be a game they also target, thinking they need to get some points as well. Obviously sat there with 2 points all season must be demoralising for any team. But we, like I said, we have to get on our front foot and we have to push forward and not worry about them too much. Sometimes I feel we do worry about who we're up against sometimes. I just want us to go out and express ourselves and play our brand of football. Don't worry about anyone else. Feels like we're setting our ways a little bit at the moment. But just go out and express yourself, especially against a team that are very, very beatable. And an early goal would be brilliant, let's be honest. Against a team like Norwich, because that could really affect them. So I think let's get on the front foot early. I know I always say things like that, but it's very important to start a game, especially when someone's as low in confidence as they are, and try and get in front early. If we get in front early, I think we can win the game. We've got to look at ourselves and understand that this is a winnable game. Going in with a bit of confidence. It's another Sunday. It's a game's on Sunday, so it gives the players another extra day to recover and rest, because sometimes you need that, and maybe a chance for the boys to have a proper chit chat on the way down. I'm sure they're not on the bus. They might be driving over to Norwich. I'm not sure how that works anymore, but that's the opportunity I used to use as a player. Is have a chat with each other and maybe think about how we can do better, especially lead into this game.
You talk about players having a chat with each other. I'm sure the Norwich squad will have been doing that on the back of a spanking. Let's call it what it is. 7-0, is that their rock bottom moment where actually at that point you have to get together and say, lads, what is going on here? Does that make this a slightly dangerous time to play them more than it might have been?
Probably, yeah. I've been there myself a couple of times, and it's not a nice place to be. But generally, I do believe they will have had to have a few sit-downs, a few home truths, and there's nothing wrong with that in football. I actually think we don't do enough of it. It's a bit of a PC world that we live in, and we have to listen to nowadays, where I think Norwich just need to go for it. They've got nothing to lose at this minute in time. Have they got enough quality throughout their squad? They probably have. We've seen it in glimpses, but not at all really this season. We know they're kind of a yo-yo club. I don't like saying that about any club but they are. They've been up, they've been down. They've kind of had Pookie when he came in was magnificent, wasn't he? When he first came in, scoring goals for fun. But he's still a threat as well. He's still a player who has scored lately as well. So he's a player who we'll have to watch. But I think they've got nothing to lose. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. They've got nothing to lose. Go for it. And I think Leeds, in a way, have a little bit more to lose. Because if we get beat, they get a bit closer to us, and other teams are playing. And obviously, we're playing on the Sunday. So we've got to be really, really careful that we do pick up our 3 points and not let anyone else capitalise around us.
So for weeks, Luke Ayling has been top of the 9 Darts Challenge leaderboard with a very high score, to be fair. But who's going to dislodge him? Maybe it's going to be Pascal Struijk.
Pascal Goldfinger Struijk.
So that brings us to the end of the warm-up. Dom, just final thoughts really ahead of this Norwich game. You know, one thing for sure, you said we need a strong start. They'll want to make sure Norwich, in front of those fans after last week, that they do as well. They've conceded plenty down the flanks. That's an area where we should, in theory, have strength. So is that where we need to exploit?
Most definitely. Looking at the way they play, they usually play with 3 at the back as well. That, for me, when you've got good wide lads, that's an area you can exploit. Missing the key defender as well. So him missing, there's positives to take out of that. But it's a must-win, in my opinion, for both teams. So really interesting game. I think this will be a really noisy game as well, because they're decent fans, you know, and they've been through quite a bit as well, just like the Leeds fans. So I think it'll be lively. Like you say, 2 o'clock kickoff as well. So I'm looking forward to it, but I think it's a game that we're very capable of winning. And I don't want to say must win, but at some point we have to really reiterate that it is maybe a must-win game for Leeds United. It won't be the end, but we have to keep trying to push forward as much as we can, because other teams will soon be catching us up. Score
prediction, Dom. That's always the final question.
It is. I fancy us, I do, and that's me being totally honest. I fancy us to win, but I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in it. Maybe 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
We'll take that. We'll take any win.
Journey back from Norwich with a win, whatever it is, we'll absolutely do. Dom, thanks so much for your company, as always. Thank you for watching the warm-up as well. It's Leeds United travelling to Norwich. It's a biggie. And all the actions on LUTV. Your commentary team will be Bryn Law and Tony Dorigo.